hug during like the summertime or on Tatooine or something, that it would burn you like the seatbelt clip thingy? And here's the question, would it burn you worse than the seatbelt clip thingy? Or not as bad?
I don't really know. I mean, so metal that conducts heat does it conduct more heat if it takes more heat to to forge, or less?
I don't
or
know.
The same amount and it just has a different threshold.
That's interesting.
That's the answer.
I'm not a metal worker.
Because it's the same with like the Ring of Power.
Right.
When he's like,
oh but it's so cool.
It's like so hot.
I think that's because it's magical.
All good questions.
Yeah.
Alright, are we ready to get started?
Yeah, I'm ready. How far down can you see? Can you see my legs?
Pretty much see that right here.
Okay.
So if you do a leg cross, people will be able to tell. Which is good.
Okay, why are you doing this? Turn this down.
I try my hardest not to look at Liam.
Yeah. I'm just looking at.
I'm gonna look at the tree back there. That's my new Liam.
That's it.
Alright. I don't know why it's glitching like that, but it's fine. Alright, ready? Dude, this is pissing me off when that's doing that. Hello and welcome to Talkback, our in-between show where we get to know some of the players and the intricacies of the characters that they portray. Today we're joined here by Milo and JD. We're playing Cain and Dain respectively.
Respectively.
Respectfully. I got that mixed up. It's okay.
No, I think you got it.
Did I? Did I get it right?
We just want to play our characters respectfully.
With as much respect
Gotcha.
as possible.
I thought you were correcting me.
No, we're not gaslighting you.
No.
I'm
Nor
glad
do we know
what
what gaslighting means.
It's not.
Awesome. Well, we hope you enjoy some of the things that we have to offer. This episode of Talkback is pre-recorded, but future episodes will be live in order to encourage our chat to ask questions and kind of get their own input and view on some of the things we'll be talking about. As we are not super far into the release of our pre-recorded campaign, we will just kind of be talking about in these first couple episodes the creation process of these characters. Some of the things that were going through our heads, some of the things that we individually worked on, and of course just kind of the background of what really went into these guys. So to start off, we had our first episode, guys. How did that feel? How was it kind of, what are you thinking about it? You both, I know JD, you watched it a little bit late. You didn't get to watch it live, but I don't know. I thought it was pretty good.
No, I thought so as well. I think that looking back on it, I just remembered just how much fun it was to be able to actually be playing again with these friends. I don't know how clear we were about it, because I think it's something that we all brought up in our little bio things or whatever, but a lot of us have been playing D&D for as long as we've been playing D&D with each other. At the very first table that I was sitting around, there was, Drew and Liam and Matt, so it was definitely really nice to be able to be back at it with the boys.
For sure. Milo, how about you?
I think now that there's an actual episode that has been given to the public, I now know exactly how I need to act in order to be consistent with that. So that's like a life hack.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I definitely understand what you're talking about. It was cool in theory when we first kind of pitched this idea to each other and we started kind of gathering the cast and the ideas and started working together. It's something that we had talked about this whole time, and now that we have something actually released, it's really changed my perspective on how personally I like you said, want to be consistent with not only my cast and my friends, but also just with the community that we're sharing it to.
Yeah, and I also think like just even the character, like everything I was doing before, like in a regular casual D&D game, you're always sort of experimenting, and sometimes you do like harmless retcons when you feel like it, but you can't really do that anymore. So there's a different dynamic.
It is interesting, the idea of being held accountable now by our recordings and stuff, to have more consistent characters.
It's it's a lot steeper on my end too, because I can't just be like, oh, I can't remember what that guy's name is, so his name is not whatever it was, it's now this, because people can scroll back and be like, actually, Liam, you said that name wrong. And so that's it's something for sure. JD, you kind of mentioned earlier about how long that we've been playing D&D together. How long has this all kind of been a part of your life?
Well, I think it was my freshman year actually, and I remember that I had some really good friends who were playing D&D, and I was like, hey, you guys should let me play. And the DM one session was like, hey, someone's not going to be here. If you want to throw a character together really fast, then you can kind of be a substitute player for this session, for this one session. And then I went in and I played this guy who was a lot of fun for me, not for anybody else. And at the end of it, the DM was like, wow, that was great. You're now officially a part of the campaign. And that was just the funnest thing in the world.
Yeah, because you joined in, it was like 4 weeks after we had all started playing for the first time.
Okay.
I don't remember, it was something like that. But I remember we were all approached by a mutual friend. Between all of us, it was me, Matt, True,
and then others.
And then others. There was Rachel, and there was Alex and a couple other people. But we were just kind of like expressed a little bit of interest, and enough so that the DM Alex was like, "Hey, we should play a beginner's game." And I do remember that first session you came in. I think it's funny that you say it was fun for you and not for anybody else, because I think that it was only antagonistic towards me in particular. But I still remember having a lot of fun. So it was cool getting to kind of progress from there. And then we played for like, I don't even know how many years before. Milo, when do you really think that you kind of came in and joined the group?
It's really a gray area, because
It was it was a gradual thing.
Yeah, especially since I started with like Dungeon World.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Which is like the junior version. I think I actually don't have any idea what my first real Dungeons and Dragons game was. It might even have been as late
as something like
Dungeon of the Madness.
During my campaign, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Which is kind of funny.
Something that I just realized that I think is kind of interesting is that all the three of us are really big first character. Like maybe not our technically first character, but our big first character was a paladin.
Yeah, that's
kind of
true.
fun.
Right, yeah.
That's.
I was playing a Vengeance Paladin. Yours was a Crown.
A Crown Paladin.
And then Milo, what was
I
Caster?
believe he was Devotion.
Right. Wow.
But he sort of switched. I think I had like the Dungeon World version. I don't think it mattered.
Right.
Right, because and the Dungeon World that we played, because that was before our first game of Dungeons and Dragons. It was just kind of like I had heard about it and was like, oh, this will be fun. And so it was like a homebrew, watered down version of this, like, I don't know, this game that I didn't understand. And so, but it was fun. We had fun just role playing and messing around. But yeah, I don't think it mattered in that either. But Caster was Devotion, you said?
Yeah, eventually, like once he made it to Dungeon the Mad Mage, he was Devotion.
Right. Mm. And we started Dungeon the Mad Mage like 3 years ago?
Yeah, something like that. The campaign as a whole lasted for like a year of us playing together.
I think it was like a year and a half, I think.
No, you're right, it was. Because I just remember that it ended right as people were leaving. Like, that was
Mm-hmm.
yours and True's senior year to head off to college and everything like that, so.
Right. Okay, well then it must have, yeah, it started, yeah, no, so it was like a year exactly, because we started in the summer after my junior year, your sophomore year. I remember because I had that weird, I showed up late to the first session dressed in like a white suit with like a mustache painted on my face.
Oh, the
'Cause
things that us actors will do for money.
Yeah, pretty much. The desperation that we go through. And then it continued on until the last day Drew had before he went to college.
Literally the last day. Like, I
Yeah.
think he was flying out.
Like 3 hours later.
Yeah.
It was so cool though. Yeah. But we've played lots of games over the years. Like we kind of said in our first episode, we've blown that world to all hell throughout all of the different adventures in our personalized canon. Out of this first episode, though, you two kind of traveling together, we had that session 0 before we started.
The secret one.
Yeah, the secret one that
Secret.
we probably won't release, just because it was a little clunky. We weren't expecting to release it, but we wanted to get the.
We'll release it if we get so popular that it can't hurt us.
Yep, exactly. That is exactly how we do it. But so, Milo, why don't you kind of talk a little bit about? Well, why don't you both? But what kind of was the dynamic that started Cain and Dain kind of together on this journey?
That is, it was easy to forget about like what or not care what that is because it wasn't like super decided in the session 0 and then session 1 we're like we're here. I think out of game, it just so happens that our names rhyme, and so it's like
That was a coincidence that I
That
don't
was a
think we knew about
coincidence.
till the very beginning.
Yeah, that's
Really?
right. Because we said it for the first time, and you were like,
that's better.
"Oh wait."
Yeah.
Well, then,
It was very natural and unplanned, actually.
Well, so I initially paired up the traveling groups. I'd planned like a year ago when I first started, kind of concocting this idea for a storyline. I knew that I was going to pair you guys off into duos and have you meet for the first time, because that's a lot better than you all meet in a tavern individually. Just you don't know anything and you don't know who you are and what your relationships are like. So I knew I wanted to pair you off. I knew I had to pair True and Matt together for backstory purposes. It just made sense. I paired Nikki and Bailey together because I didn't know Bailey very well at the time, and I knew that they were dating. So I just kind of figured in that left you two, which I was super excited about, obviously. I really like how it all kind of came together, and I had high hopes that were met when they all met together. But I think that as far as the Cain and Dain incident, that was definitely a happy little accident that we all enjoyed.
No, right, because we were... Well, I don't want to spoil anything from session 0, like secret session or anything like that. But
The session we don't talk about.
the session we don't talk about, so I won't talk about it. But no, it was good. It was good.
So, as far as the character creation, that's kind of what we want to talk about today. It's just what kind of your thought process was as you were making the characters. We don't want to spoil too much about the backstory. We can get into those in the later episodes once stuff starts being explained. But as far as the creation process, I mean, we had a pretty rigorous, like couple of group meetings over our group chat, and in person, and then we had those individual meetups where we just talked a lot. So what was kind of the thought process that got you to Cain and Dain? Like, what happened there?
I haven't played many campaigns, so it was easy to like sort out what classes I haven't like played yet, and that was my first instinct was to try something new. And I've always sucked at spellcasting, so that's what I went with was the worst like solution to that. I
Was to just jump
into wizard, but then also I don't know where I got hobgoblin from, honestly. But
I like it though.
Yeah,
Like,
I
Hobgoblin
like it
Wizard,
too.
that's such a vibe.
Well, because I remember we had an entirely different character concept for you at the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, you knew you wanted to play a wizard because you wanted to try something new. But you were thinking, like, half-elf, or... I don't even remember. But it was a sudden transition into Hobgoblin, but I agree that I think it ended up being very cool.
Yeah, I remember Milo texting me at some point about, like, character ideas. He was like, I'm going to be really vague about this, but I need your help picking out, like, something like this. I was like, wow, that's kind of intense. And I actually, right now, I have zero idea how much of what Milo and I talked about is still a part of his character backstory. So I guess there's still suspense there, so don't tell me.
Okay.
In my mind, I'm kind of just supposing that was all...
Ooh.
that was all kind of stuff that he had been part of his first idea and didn't settle on, but I don't know. I guess when it comes to, like, coming up with Dain and stuff, it's actually a little bit of a funny story.
Right.
Because the entire time, like, for months before we had started playing, I had been talking to Liam about and getting really deep into this character that I had wanted to play. That was actually a sorcerer. And it was like this draconic tiefling sorcerer, and I had what I thought was a really cool backstory planned out, and I was like, I think that this is going to be like a different vibe from what everyone else is playing. And then I was talking to Matt, and he was like, yeah, I'm playing like this fire genasi, like ash themed cleric. I was like, I thought that you were playing like an exorcist cleric. And he was like, no, yes, a fire themed exorcist cleric.
Right.
I was like, well, I don't want to, like, step on his toes with the fire-themed stuff. So I think last minute I was like, hey, Liam, I'm going to change my character, and now I'm going to play this warlock instead. So
Right.
it was exciting
Yeah,
because...
You kind of had Dain in your back pocket, though, for, like, a while.
For a while, no. He wasn't just, like, out of the blue. I think that Dain is one of the characters, because I come at it from different ways sometimes, like I think all of us do, where sometimes I'll have a character concept, and then I'll do the build after that, kind of what fits.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll be like, this is a really cool build, and I'll kind of have that in mind, and then I'll come up with the character after that. So for Dain, I think I had this really cool celestial warlock build in my head that I wanted to be like this dwarven celestial warlock with little sprite buddy.
Right.
So, but yeah, then I based a lot of Dain's character off of, you know, at least the vibes off of Tarzan's dad, because, you know, what a pinnacle of manliness, you know, just Tarzan's dad with his gigantic mustache and building that treehouse and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of the pinnacle of manliness, as you've so put it, just kind of seen in this first episode. We actually had a couple of questions from people who watched the first episode.
Oh, nice.
And one of which that kind of stuck to me. Hold on. Is for Dain. So someone asked, how long can Dain go without saying I?
Well, that's like, you know, it's like asking how long someone else could go without saying yes. You know, it's just a different kind of vocabulary that he's got.
No, for sure. He definitely has
not
voice. Yeah, it's not for the memes. It's not for the vine. No,
You can't choose whether
you can say I or yes.
He probably could say yes. You know, he's just from, you know, it's interesting to think about. You know, he's like over a century old probably. So
yeah, I mean, so going along with that, it definitely seems like Dain has more of a like getting into the character. You know, we're all actors. We've done this for such a long time, and that's what we love about Dungeons and Dragons is the storytelling aspect. The idea of just making these characters and seeing them come to life, and it seems like Dain is a lot more refined to kind of step into as crass and as bold as he may be. It's not your classic like, you know, idiot barbarian or like super like jockey fighter. He's a little bit more of a gentleman, I guess you could say.
yeah. I think in maybe a you know, just exactly how you said it, like not in a crass way, but a very bold, but classy kind of way.
Classy.
Classy. Classy's the word, honestly. Mm-hmm.
There was also a lot of questions kind of about Dill, and without jumping into kind of, because I know you talk a little bit about Dill in some of the later episodes,
Right,
but
like how we met and stuff like that.
yeah, but the concept of Dill, and just the idea of where that relationship kind of came from.
Yeah, so I think the idea is, obviously, like, game-wise, he is my, and we do talk about it more in future episodes, kind of in character, which is fun, but he's my warlock familiar, obviously, but, I also like to think that, that's also, like, partly Dill's choice, it's because him and Dain are such good friends, that they travel together as well. It's not just a feature, just a warlock feature, or a spell or something.
Yeah,
so.
It's a lot different than like your classic like, oh, I'm a wizard and I have a cat and I name the cat and the cat is intelligent but it's a cat. Getting to like role play Dain with you, Dill with you, and the relationship between you two has been like super intriguing.
Well, and that's what I said at the beginning. I think it was the very first episode. I think we may have even been recording already when I sent Liam a text, and I was like, hey, by the way, I have a warlock familiar. It's a sprite. His name is Dill, and you can roleplay him, so go ham.
I think that's how it went as well. You had told me beforehand, you were like, I think I'm gonna have one of those like special familiars, and so I was like, okay, so it's either an imp or a spirit of some kind. There's they're a pseudo dragon. There's lots of ways that could go. So I was, as it did catch me off guard, but I was semi prepared for it, and so. But most of it has been completely improvised based off of your character. The concept of Dill has kind of come through your actions and what would complement that.
Nice.
Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have Dill like clash with you,
Oh yeah, no, Dill and I are very good friends.
Oh, of course.
Dill and Dain and Dill are good friends.
JD's just an innocent bystander in this relationship.
For real, definitely.
Well, what about you, Milo? When you're kind of thinking about the character of Cain or trying to step into those shoes, so to speak, from an actor's standpoint, just what are kind of the little quirks and tweaks that you kind of make to your general demeanor?
I think, especially right now where we are on the story, he's pretty closed off from everyone. I think he's trying to make a good impression, but he's not necessarily, like, he's kind of in a different headspace and just overall like area from everybody else, it seems. And I think that's convenient for me because there have been a lot of times when I actually may not have thought of something that I should know about the character, and then like I just don't know what to say, and so I just be mysterious about it. But
very wise.
Yeah, it's worked out that way, but I promise that's not all of it. He is also like mysterious.
No, there's lots of, especially with kind of crafting that backstory with you, there's a lot of, there's like a general mystery, but it's really cool in the first episode, it's really cool getting to see that kind of peek through the cracks a little bit.
Yeah.
Where like, you drop the facade and you get to see kind of the real Cain behind when he's like, one of my favorite parts of the episode is when the Western blazer is happening, the fire drink being passed back and forth, and he's like, I think someone's having a birthday party over there. Or when you were like, it was really, really fun getting to see you like think about casting Witch Bolt, and then you're like, no, there's a metal sword stuck in him, and so I'm gonna hold off on that. And then Dain comes around the corner and just like does the exact same thing. You're like, come on, man. Like, that is exactly what I was gonna do. And so there's lots of stuff, especially in later episodes, that kind of starts to unfold. But as far as the mystery, I think that it's been really cool so far.
I do like that we both cast Witch Bolt, that we both picked that.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a thing too. Like in the future, I feel like we gotta
cast Witch Bolt
at the
more
same
often.
time.
Yeah.
just some dual witch bolts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so we've pre-recorded the first 10 episodes, right? And so we kind of know how the story has progressed so far. But once we've gotten to the point where we have been, I mean, we knew this starting. I guess this is kind of a generalized question for the both of you. We knew this starting that at a certain point, we didn't know when, that both of you would be temporarily leaving the cast.
Right.
And so, did that influence your character decisions at all, knowing that it would be kind of, I don't know, at the beginning this all felt so like far-fetched and temporary, really,
Mm-hmm.
and now that it's kind of, you know, gaining its footing, now that we've actually got a project running and a show on the internet, how does it kind of feel like it's transitioned from that? How do the characters kind of feel more important or maybe less important to you now?
Well, I think that for me, when I started playing, it was so far away feeling, even though it wasn't, because we did all of this in like a month or two.
Right.
But when we started playing, it felt so far away that I was like just not even thinking about it. But once we got more towards the end, I was kind of thinking, oh, you know, how are we gonna find a close for this? Because I don't know how many people are aware, but I'm almost definitely not going to be here to film season 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something that's sad for me. But I was a little curious about how that was going to work out for Dain. So
Yeah, I feel like there's like a target
yeah,
on that character.
yeah, a little bit like, oh, I wonder if Liam's gonna kill our characters, and we won't spoil if he does or not. But
we'll get there when we get there.
yeah. But definitely towards the beginning, I wasn't even thinking about it.
Yeah,
so.
me neither. Like,
I don't think I haven't put too much thought into it either. I mean, I'm not planning on killing off your characters. I think that
Or is he? Because, you know, we won't spoil anything.
no, that is not in the. It may or may not happen, but as of right now, it's not something that I've thought of. There's so many other things to think about. But I think that they became so strangely beloved so quickly, you know, and so I think that it's really interesting to see how the characters will kind of turn on their heads of how, like, what you thought versus what they actually became, you know. And so we don't know how long it will be until we start filming the later seasons of the campaign, and so when the return will be for these characters, or if they will return, or if you choose to, you know, maybe you want to shake things up and do something different. But I think for now, it's more of a how has like knowing that since we've been in between and finished season 1, how does it, like, knowing that these characters may or may not be there for a couple of, you know, for a season or a handful of episodes or whatever.
I think maybe, like you said, it's up in the air what could happen. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. It's kind of fun thinking like, oh, maybe I'll take this character somewhere else outside of this campaign. Mm-hmm. Or who knows?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think that I'll definitely miss being a part of whatever happens while we're not available. But when I come back, I don't know. Like, maybe I'll really want to continue playing Dain, or maybe you'll just be introduced to that fire-themed sorcerer. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. What's going on with my music? It's a little wonky. Right. So
I do have one question, just for the three of us, because I just realized as I've been sitting here, because I've never been on a talk show before, that I was like, like, when I'm thinking like, oh, how do people act on talk shows? I picture myself as Henry Cavill, because I've seen him on talk shows before, and I'm like, what would Henry Cavill be doing right now?
That's a pretty good idea.
Well, I was wondering if either of you have been like picturing talk show people in your head, like Liam, if you've been thinking of yourself as more of a Conan talk show host, or like a...
I can't say I've been thinking of myself as Conan or like Jimmy Fallon or anything.
Jimmy Fallon.
I think I have, if I have been thinking of anything, it's been more of like those those like backstage movie interviews, you know, where like
Ooh,
the actor's
yes.
like sitting there, it's like a black background, but you can see the movie poster behind them.
Right,
And
like
then,
with the Watch Mojo girl and Tom Holland.
Right, yeah, with the Watch Mojo
Nice,
girl and Tom
nice,
Holland.
nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm the Watch Mojo girl.
Okay, so he's the Watch Mojo girl, and I'm Henry Cavill. Then who are you?
I'm like an interview that's like over a Zoom call.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Okay. Zoom call.
Maybe it's because I'm just
Like all those Andrew Garfield Zoom call interviews.
sure.
All right.
I'm just too conscious of like the fact that there's a
The
camera.
fact that this
that
is a Zoom call, kind
yeah,
of.
that I'm just like, what do I look like? Because if we had like
No,
Mega
you're right.
Nice film cameras, then I would imagine what I would look
Probably
like on
think
Mega
so.
Nice film
More
cameras.
of like on those like late show stage kind of things.
Yeah.
There's also this weird kind of barrier because we're all looking across to look at each other.
Oh no! Don't tell them.
No, I'm gonna tell him, dude.
No, don't
it's
tell
fine. No, it's just easier for the cameras. But like, has it felt weird for you guys? Like,
Well, there are
not
moments.
turning your heads.
There are moments where I'll be like, go to turn my head. No, no.
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
But
Don't want
Oh,
to
the-
disrupt the illusion.
the joys of I have disrupted the illusion. I have broken it. No, I mean, there's this definite like. I don't know. I feel like there's been a couple times where I've done the same thing, like, ugh, but the joys of starting a media group in
Literally in the basement.
literally in a basement.
So,
Which is kind of how it's been super fun because that's how we've been playing for such a long time. We have always played in a basement, I think. Like,
well, in the beginning, it was in the middle of that
that's
living
right.
room.
Yeah, no, it was in that living room, but we as like a friend group have always been
No,
in
it's
the
always
basement.
been in either mine or yours.
In my parents' house, yeah.
Parents' basement, yeah.
We did a garage one.
We did
time.
garage
We
stuff
did
pretty
garages.
often.
That was pretty
Garages kind of feel like basements, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm.
Like they have the same.
Just those cold concrete wall drafty vibes.
You always have to throw out a carpet, so that way it's not like, okay, I'm sitting here at my
Yeah.
plastic table with the concrete floor.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just been a really cool experience so far, getting to kind of see how it progresses and how. I think we were all nervous throwing cameras in the midst. Like, we wanted this to be first and foremost us being friends playing Dungeons and Dragons, but how did kind of the aspect of knowing that it was streamed to the internet kind of change your views on that?
Well,
I don't think it changes how you play as much as what you're doing when you're not playing.
right. No, I agree. I think that the cameras and everything like that were a little bit less intimidating or made less of a difference than I guess maybe we all thought it would. It definitely just felt like playing like normal. Kind of
Yeah,
forgot about it or just accepted that they were there pretty quickly. So
which is nice. But also every once in a while too, like you just have to think about like what you're doing. You kind of you want to be a little more
like presentable, like
yeah, and careful about like stepping on other people's toes or like overshadowing
oh yes,
someone's moment.
yeah,
Because it's really easy to do that when you're playing a regular casual game.
Right.
It's like I'm about to say something really funny, but yeah, there's in the back of your mind just a little bit of like what would be best for the audience now that there's an audience. Just a little bit though.
right. Like the fact that there is sometimes discrepancy between just hanging out with friends and wanting to make something that you want to share with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's usually they both match up pretty nicely,
Yeah.
pretty perfectly. So
I don't think it reflects almost at all in terms of like
Yeah.
how we're playing the character or
No,
making
yeah.
decisions in game. I think it's been pretty accurate.
you do have to be careful though to cover up company logos and stuff like that
Oh my
for
gosh.
copyright purposes.
Yeah, that
So
we haven't gotten super far into that joke yet, but holy cow, there were so many generic name brand item jokes throughout these first 10
Yeah.
episodes that I still think we need to make a t-shirt that's like generic t-shirt look, like design, generic t-shirt words or something.
yeah.
We need to capitalize on that joke because it was pleasant. It got annoying pretty quick, but it was still pleasant.
It's way beyond rule of threes. at
Oh,
this
yeah.
point.
Oh yes.
Oh, way beyond.
We suck at rule of threes.
Just way too much. Rule of threes per episode. Dang. Well, I think we have a handful of final questions, just kind of for you guys individually. There were a bunch of ones asking kind of about, interests in where specific things kind of came from, and what was kind of the motivation for creating that. A lot of them were kind of geared more towards the character backstory, and so we'll be careful not. We'll be vague
really
about
vague.
it. Yeah, if those ones do come up. So someone asked kind of what, aside from their whole gig, what would be some of the interests or hobbies of your characters? Just like, does Cain kind of seem like the guy who'd be into crossword puzzles or?
Ooh, okay, like in a real world AU kind of.
Yeah, we're like in a real world, or I mean, in our weird blend of fantasy real world stuff. Like, there's probably
Like crossword puzzles and looking for secret doors.
stuff like that.
I like to think that he does something that would normally be associated with like another class, but you're careful about like doing, like maybe he plays a musical instrument or something. But it's like, but he's not a bard. But
How is he allowed to do
Okay.
that?
All right. I'd have to say, yeah, no.
I think that's all I really had in mind when I first started with him, but I'll keep thinking, I guess.
Yeah. Well, would you say that it's like he has more of like a creative side to him, or is it more of just like his hobbies would be more of the intellectual, like get you thinking kind of mind puzzles and stuff.
I don't know actually.
That's fair enough. Yeah, it's not the normal thing that you would think about.
Exposed.
Yeah, get exposed.
Yeah, wow. I guess for Dain, he'd probably enjoy crossword puzzles. He probably enjoys all kinds of puzzles. I imagine that he's still a great lover of like history and stuff like that. Maybe he'd be like a college history professor or something.
Yeah, well, I could see that.
Not to step too intensely into like the Indiana Jones vibes or anything.
No, I mean
because that's not what I'm going for. But
if it's the character type, so it fits the model.
So maybe crossword puzzles actually. That's a good one. You probably would love crossword puzzles.
It's nice and specific too.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know. Do you think your character would like watching football? Do you think Cain would watch football? I'm trying to think if Dain would love watching football or not.
I don't think he would consciously turn the football game on, but
like if he was invited to the Super Bowl party.
I think he would enjoy it more than I would.
That's fair enough.
I think Dain might be a little bit of a socialite. Like he might just really enjoy gathering with people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. One of the other questions that I thought was really interesting is, in your two characters respectively, what do you think is what they believe is the best quality about themselves, and why? If that makes any sense.
Okay. I think anytime I'm like trying to play the character of Cain, I want to appear to be like, he would want to appear to the others as like someone who can be trusted. That sounds really ominous. But what I mean is like he wants the like his team to like know that he's like he can help them and that he's like kind to them. I would hope that's how it comes across. I think it's just because he wants the same thing, you know. He's trying to like have some. He wants it to be a mutual understanding. That's something I've acknowledged. That's about all I can say though.
That makes sense. Dain?
Well, I suppose that Dain probably. Well, as I was thinking about it, I've been thinking things like persistence or confidence, and I think those two might kind of be the things that Dain makes an effort to be because he thinks of them as positive qualities. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting question. I don't even know how I would answer that question for myself. So kind of trying to see what Dain would think is a little bit.
I don't want to answer it about myself because that would just seem
Then
like
it would seem a
little
little...
narcissistic.
Yeah, wow.
Maybe. It's easy.
Well, from an outward perspective, I guess. I wonder if it would be easier if you identified
Oh, each other's?
each other's.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
So Milo... Just kidding.
No, not for
No,
no,
Cain,
for
Cain.
for Cain and Dain.
For Cain...
Milo's worst quality is easily.
I'd probably say that for Cain does really give off mysterious vibes, though. This is probably the hardest one to answer.
Yeah.
For everyone else's,
I think I'd understand.
like for everyone else's, like all the other 4 characters, it would probably be easier than for Cain because he's so mysterious.
What's like anything that's like come through besides the mysteriousness that you may have noticed?
I think that, like Liam was saying, like kind of that quirky humor kind of vibes. Like he makes these funny observations, or he's always like he's the kind of guy who's gonna quietly laugh at something and kind of.
It seems it feels kind of like the weird, like quiet, like adult kind of vibe to me. Like, like if he was like the, I don't know. I almost want to say like single dad, like older dad kind of joke vibes. Does that make any sense? I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd say that's.
He's
a
like,
good
you know what it is?
observation.
I think. You know, never mind. I'm not gonna say them.
No, no.
I'm not gonna spit out the half-formed thoughts in my brain.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll just live in curiosity forever.
I suppose you will.
Yeah.
But Milo, what do you think is kind of Dane's most observed quality?
I think he seems like he's got himself. He comes off as having himself all figured out, and that he's really curious about other people. Like, I don't know. He seems encouraging in whatever it may be applicable to. That's what that's what pops in my mind. Like, whether or not that's true, yeah, he definitely seems like confident, but also like, I think that he finds some satisfaction in seeing other people like also succeed at things.
Right.
He'd be a good like friend.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Dan.
I think Cain probably. Well, I think it's a competition because I think multiple characters give off these vibes, but I think Cain, for me at least, gives off the most like Aragorn vibes, like, you know, sitting in the corner mysteriously smoking a pipe kind of thing.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think. Although, you know, I think True and Bailey's characters also
Pretty
are
much.
kind of competing for those mysterious warrior vibes.
Yeah, we have a lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like, I feel like Vide and Jonah are like competing for like who is the most mysterious sojourning swordsman, and like
The classic hero wandering knight trope kind of thing.
I think it's a good fit for any of them.
oh yeah, there's definitely a lot of mystery about each one of the characters. I mean, even in like Saren's own weird like quirky way, like every time Vide like shoots her a look and she's like, oh, it's nothing. You're like, well, obviously it's not nothing.
Yeah.
This is like the 4th time that's happened.
Not on the nose at all.
Yeah, no subtlety whatsoever. But I kind of dig it. There's just lots of, I really enjoy seeing like everyone kind of keeping their characters close to the vest, especially in these first couple of episodes, and seeing the natural progression of sharing these details. Because it's always like unsatisfying when it's like, hey man, like, you want to join up and, you know, like make a couple of gold pieces, and it's like, yeah, of course, my parents were murdered by a demon. You're like,
Right.
okay.
I think it's something that we had talked about, is just how nice it was that kind of all of our characters got along so quickly. That there hasn't been any of that, like, kind of
Distrust,
which is fine. Like, nothing wrong with having those few sessions of distrust and kind of contention before everyone kind of clicks. But
I think it's a realistic thing to play through that stuff when it happens.
Right.
But I can't help but like be annoyed at it too sometimes. when it goes too far.
And
But
not
I
even
mean, I
in
don't
a-
think that's a problem.
Not even in a bad way. Just like sometimes you'll
Yeah.
watch like a TV show or another really good podcast about people playing D&D and be like, oh man, these characters are so great. I can't wait for them to start getting along. But I really liked how fast all of us in character started getting along. So.
I think it really helped to have that session 0 to kind of get to see just the character dynamics already formed. Because I personally believe that comes from when you feel like your character is alone in their principles, and so pairing you all off kind of gave you all someone to lean on and have those really cool character trusting moments earlier on.
Yeah.
Whether it's like Ronan leaning over to Jonah and like kind of whispering something about like maybe we can trust these people, or like I'm not sure how I feel about this. Like everyone having a friend just ended up working very nicely.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting to kind of see as the game goes on how those pairings kind of, like it's not like we're all paired up still by the end of the last session, but how we do still have those connections and whatnot. So.
Yeah, how they deepen but also kind of spread out and interlock with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all progressed really beautifully so far. I'm super excited. I really wish that we had enough content to stream every week. We'll get to there at some point. But for now, it's really cool being able to also have these in-between shows to kind of dissect and talk about it a little bit. Are there any other questions that you two may have for each other, or just kind of want to say or ask?
Well, I guess if anyone who's watching has more questions for the two of us, like this isn't like the last chance to ask them. Like I don't know, we'll be back. So
That's true.
Yeah, I think how it's gonna work. Again, this show's a little more off the cuff than I think we were planning. But I think what we were thinking about was we would have each of the travel groups kind of go and then start doing individual stuff as more backstory things start to develop, and then we can start talking more about it. So, by episode 4 of Tackle Talkback, we're really diving into why Dain is doing some things and what he meant by this, and what JD feels like he can kind of clue us in up to this point,
right.
or what he feels like sharing.
It is definitely a different vibe than. Well, I don't know how much like we're allowed to talk about Critical Role and stuff on here, or anything like that.
I think we're fine.
Don't want to step on their toes. Not that we could, because they're so awesome and we love them. We love you. Please notice us. But it's definitely, I think, a different vibe than like starting watching the first season of Critical Role and having those like backstory cutaways happen immediately and be like, wow, these are all these characters that are already very well developed and we all already know very well and stuff like that. So.
For sure. Do you have any thoughts, Milo?
No.
No. Alright. Well, I think that was all. Let me just check one more time while I'm kind of talking through this. But I believe that was all of the questions we really had. There were a couple more things that we will elect not to ask just because it will kind of dive a little more into some stuff that is to come.
You should say the questions and then we'll just give mysterious looks.
Ooh, okay. So this one is for JD. Dill, in your description of him, has exhibited some really interesting weaponry and very descriptive ornamental garb and armor. And kind of where did that all come from?
Wow.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Interesting.
But you talk a little bit more about where Dill comes from. Another one being where Cain learned his transmutation specialties. This one was asked by someone who knows a little bit more. It was not exhibited very much in the first episode that he was a transmuter. So someone who knows a little bit more wanted to ask a little more about his upbringing and how he learned his spellcraft.
Books.
Of course, obviously. And many more questions that we'll get to in some later episodes. But for now, thank you for joining us for this Tackle Talkback. I enjoyed it. I don't know about you guys. I thought it was a
this
cool
was
game.
fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was neat.
I come back. I have to grow out my Henry Cavill mustache first, but you know.
Well, next time we see you, maybe we'll have one. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you next week with a new episode of Tackle the Beholder.
Yes. Love episode 2.
It was a good one. Oh, that was weird. And then we'll just kind of like fade out, maybe. We'll just like.
Oh yeah, we'll do some.
I'm
kind
sure
of-
it's definitely
I'm sure it's
good
probably
by now.
Yeah.
Rice cake.
Just like.
We got to include that last part where we said we thought it was over.
Yeah, no,
Like in
it'll gently fade.